My name is Mateusz, and I would like to talk about Windows Phone Application Security Assessment, how to approach the topic. Maybe a few words about what I do. I work at a Polish company, it's called Securing. For some people it's funny because Securing, what do you? No, just Securing. I do mostly web and mobile application security assessment. I'm ex-developer. I worked as a .NET developer, which is one of the reasons I'm here today. And when my wife and my kids fall asleep and I somehow manage to stay awake, I do some bug hunting. My finding was nice in Twitter. They rewarded me nice green $1,260, which I thank you, Twitter. But mainly I work normal hours and at Securing. Why is the reason we are here? Please tell me, how many of you use Windows Phone? Please raise hands. Oh, I didn't expect that. I think it's more than the total market share of the devices and the people here, but somehow I think you're interested in that. Okay. Also have mine, so this is my test phone. My Windows Phone powered by Nokia, which I heard is going to make phones again as Nokia. I tried to look hard data, but I think market share of Windows Phone mobile devices is around few percent. Here is the hard data I pulled out from Gartner, which says that in first quarter of this year, Microsoft sold 0.7% of all devices, all mobile devices sold was with Windows Phone operating system. It is 2.4 million of the devices globally, but I think it's quite small, but somehow the Windows still survives, right? Still flows on the surface. In my case, our customers, which are mostly financial sector players, come a few times a year, 4, 5, and ask us to test a Windows Phone application. They provide versions of their application on all platforms, I mean Android, iOS, and sometimes for Windows Phone. So this is the second reason I'm here. Third reason is that I was unable to find some guide how to approach security assessment of such an application. There are some materials online about the Windows Phone security itself, but not much about an application assessment, so I thought maybe I will create a guide, and this is the third reason for this talk. Okay. This is the agenda. We'll start with the application, how it looks. Then we will discuss a test environment, what we need to test Windows Phone application security. Then security assessment, what to check, we will discuss. And then a quick summary and place for your questions. I brought some yo-yos, which are lighting when used. So if I have few, if you will ask me difficult questions, I will try to answer, and you can grab a few of those. And, okay, application. What's application? Sorry. Application is basically an XAP file. Question for you. How many, someone has experience with analysis of Silverlight-based application? Okay, so basically this is quite similar to this. There are two ways. If you will get a version of the app ready to work with an emulator, it will be just XAP is then a simple archive file which can be extracted by 7-zip or whatever. And if you will pull out an application from Windows Store, the same XAP file will be protected by DRM. So it cannot be easily unpacked on the system. You can do it from the phone. The phone takes out the DRM, and then from the rooted device you can access those files. This is unpacked. For this talk I use a Twitter application which I installed, and this is the files available. We can see some assemblies which are quite similar to .NET classical assemblies, and some configuration files as well. Some resources like images, some files with strings for different languages. First interest, before that, I love .pig, which is a .NET decompiler. I use it for this analysis. How many of you has experience with JDGUI and analysis of Android-based application? Okay, so you know that there are not many features in JDGUI. This tool is great. Great full text search, for example. We'll go to it later on. This is how it looks. It's quite, you can analyze not only Windows Phone, .NET libraries, all .NET stuff you can use. I recommend it. There was one tool called .NET Reflector, which did pretty much the same, but right now I think this is freeware, right? .NET Reflector done some commercial versions. So I recommend highly this tool. You can search for whatever you want for string and it will find it. This is cool, you can navigate through different pieces of the code. So first important file in when we extracted XAP file is app manifest, which basically lists all assemblies. And two important applications is it shows in here which of the DLL files, which of the assemblies holds and let's call it main class for the applications. It's the class called when application is started on the phone. And second thing is the type. So this is the assembly, and you can see the names is here, and this class is responsible for the initial start of the application. Second important file is WM app manifest XML, which provides information about the version of the application, the publisher ID, some preferred resolution sizes, and also what permissions application uses. It's called capabilities in here. I think it's quite similar to other, for example, to Android or to iOS. For example, access to microphone, to contacts, use of the web browser component, and so on. I said this is the Twitter.ui phone app, and this is the code behind, which is pretty straightforward, not much here. One important thing here is that a navigation event, which is done here, it navigates to app.xaml file, which is the baseline of the application. Let's call it, this is, what is XAML? XAML is Extensible Application Markup Language. This is the way Microsoft uses not only in Windows Phone, but also in Windows WPF in those applications. This is the way Microsoft describes the view of the user interface. Here is the main, which you can see some resources loaded, and here is the crucial element next to analyze. So this is the view, and always XAML file is connected to a class, which is here the app class. Always there's connection with code behind. This is the code, and this XAML file which describes how does control or page look. Maybe a better example is here. We have something which is phone application page, also with code behind class. And here we can see some resources, some styles are set up here, some height, width, border, thickness, and so on, and some image controls. So basically, this is the XAML file, which shows the view, and the code behind goes like this. It's connected always with, XAML file is always connected to code behind class. Okay, so let's go to test environment. Yeah. If you're about to test an application for the Windows Phone, bribe, extort, steal, do whatever it takes to get a version for the emulator from your customer, and grab the source code as well, if it's possible, of course. It's way easier for me, from my experience, to test the application on the emulator. Which is, what is emulator? This is basically Hyper-V machine with Windows Phone operating systems. When you install Windows Phone SDK, for Windows you will get a tool which is called XAP deploy.exe, and it will allow you to run your application easily. This is Windows Phone Power Tools, which basically does the same One other feature here is nice. You can access to something called isolated storage. It's the place an application holds its data. I will talk about that later. When you can grab version for the emulator, one of more of the reasons why it's important, you don't have DRM here. So XAP file, you can easily be extracted. Moreover, if you have the source code, you can change something. For example, disable certificate pinning in this application, compile it again, zip it again, and run modified application on emulator as well. So if in case of the setup, this is the most convenient way to access the application. If emulator is not the case, and you will get the link to download application from Windows Store, you have to use this nice tool, Windows Phone Internals. You have to grab a specific version of the phone, which is listed on the side of this tool, in order to get unlock the bootloader and get access to the data on the phone. There is a bunch of prerequisites you need. Install some tools or drivers. You have to download those files connected to your device in order to this tool to work. The tool is quite nice because it helps you grab all those things, shows you how to search for it, and then you just click. I use mainly mass storage mode, which is basically mounts your device like external disk to Windows. So you can easily navigate. The same as Windows, you have operating systems, basically the idea is the same. So this tool enables you to get this access to grab assemblies or isolated storage folder from the application itself. And yeah, when you run, this tool is cool, is just point and click. You have to have connected USB your phone to the Windows, and that's it. Here is PSExec used after the mass storage mode is enabled. You just run midnight command and navigate through files on this disk. Here is the content of the Twitter application. This is the folder with assemblies. So you can easily copy that and paste it. In case of rooting these devices, the tool is great. I haven't seen anything like that for Android or iOS. It's such easy to use. The hardest part is to get all those things. After that, it's just point and click, switch to mass storage mode, and it works, just works. My phone never bricked with those experiments. Okay, where are the interesting parts? When we navigate here in the assemblies, after the application was installed, the XAP file was unpacked, and application files are in data programs install. GUID is installation GUID of the application. There is, I don't remember exactly now where, but there is a file which lists all applications installed with those GUIDs. But basically you can find it, for example, using the date, modified time. You can easily find your application when you install it. Second important thing is isolated storage is the place where each application gets its own folder, which is inaccessible from other applications. So this is called isolated storage. It stores their files. The application creates some config entries. Everything application, every data is put there. Of course, you can use SD card, but there I think all applications can access. So this is the isolated storage used. This is the location, data user, dev apps, app data, local packages, GUID. Sometimes it differs for application, but basically you can also do the same search for data for the date the data was created. Okay, next thing. In case of traffic interception and when we use emulator, what is important is the way you start the steps. First, you have to start proxy, for example, in burp, set IE to that listener, and start emulator, because when this virtual machine starts, it copies your proxy settings from host to guest. So when you do it the other way, you can sometimes it doesn't, this settings doesn't show up on the guest machine. In case of device, so if you wish to access proxy traffic from device, you can easily on the Windows, at least on my computer, because the new Lenovo's doesn't support that, you have to have another Wi-Fi card to emulate a hotspot, which is stupid, but on mine it's okay. So basically you, on your wireless interface, you set up a hotspot, you connect the device, set up a proxy, for example, on, this is, I think, Eternal, whatever. Just add on the phone the same setup. One trick more is, whole internet says that if you wish to grab traffic from Windows Phone, you need to use filler. The trick is that the burp exposes its CA certificate as a dir file, which Windows Phone doesn't accept. What you need to do is change the extension to CIR, C-I-R file, and then this is local IIS, then you have to just click, and it will ask you, oh, sorry for the Polish language, if you wish to install that certificate. And you click yes, and that's it, to intercept traffic. In case of the Twitter, that was enough. No pinning there, just I grabbed just movement. Yeah, here is some funny error because time on my phone is somehow set up on May this year or something like that, so some error occurred. But basically, in case of traffic interception, in case of application, Twitter application, it's that's it. Sometimes some applications use some custom HTTP clients, some external libraries, which happily avoid this proxy setup. I usually used for that ptinydns.py Python script to set up locally on Windows DNS server, which does only that for specific target domain, I will redirect it to my interface and burp will handle that. But I thought last night, when I can access data on the phone, why not to modify the host file? I didn't check it. The file is accessible, so maybe you can use what, in case of the emulator, when you will modify host file on your system, it will grab it, right? Because it's, host and guest machine use the same. But in case of hotspot, host settings are not taken into account. So when I will publish my materials, I will check also if it's possible to change simply host file on the phone. Okay, so to security assessment. I will discuss how to assess communication, data storage, encryption, use of web browser, one case when I saw code obfuscation on the phone, and handling of URLs or file handling by the application, which is quite similar to the URI handling. Okay, in case of communication, we always choose the easiest way. Sometimes it's just to check on the wire what's coming in, coming out. Sometimes when we have, for example, some certificate pinning or some encryption inside SSL sent by the application to the server, we have to do some code analysis. In case of source code, web client, web request classes are used sometimes. For example, this is the nice tool .pic and the tip. Just put HTTPS and we'll see some calls, and there you can search for whatever domain is connected, how it's connected. So this tool really helps to quickly navigate through the code if you know what to look for. This is in case of the communication. Okay, here is first question from my side, second, I think. Here is a certificate pinning flaw which I found out in one of the application, which will happily throw out Gandalf's "You shall not pass," but when? Where is which line holds the error? What do you think? I will happily give you. What's the problem here? Maybe the source code isn't straightforward, you can ask, I can explain what's going on.
What kind of difference is the high TLS authentication done with fingerprints?
Okay. Yeah. It has some is computed SHA1 hash from the certificate. So the phone has a hard-coded list of those hashes from certificates it will accept. So it checks if this hash is in there. No, that's not the case here. But I think we established, sorry? Yeah.
Current time settings. I mean, it appears to me that it might not work if the current time on the device is not set properly.
Yeah, of course, on the device, yeah, but let's assume that the time is okay. But okay, remember, I will kill anyone somewhere. So like, I will put one here for you. Oh, awesome. When we discussed this before, this line is the problem. Think about not what happened on the phone, but on the server side, from the server side perspective. I will search for next year. Okay, so the case is here, what will happen if the server certificate will change and its hash won't be in the application? For example, let's call it the case that certificate was signed with SHA1 and you have to change it to something else, the same signature, because of the flaws in the SHA1. So if the hash, this is the whole certificate, right? If it will change on the server side, the application will not connect to it. It doesn't matter if for example, it will be correct certificate, right? But newer version, which wasn't placed in this list of accepted fingerprints. You cannot take whole certificate, just few data from it. Okay. In case of data storage and encryption, as I said, application stores data in isolated storage, which is basically a folder in the application on the Windows Phone. The class is isolated storage settings, secures application settings, because in this folder you can, from the source code point of view, you can store key value pairs or whole files, right? When you use key value pairs in application settings, there is an underscore application settings file, I will show it later, which holds those entries. It's just basically XML file without the extension. Files are stored using, in the same folder, isolated storage file uses. One thing more is data protection API, which is the API available, of course, not only on the Windows Phone, but here. It allows you, without hard coding a key somewhere in your application, to encrypt and decrypt data. Just you use protect and unprotect methods, and you put the data there. One flaw is here that all application, because the key used for encryption here is derived from user passwords and few things from the phone, but basically all applications end up with the same key. So if someone will manage to, for example, you can always extract the key from the device itself. But if the attacker will manage to install the application and somehow get access to your data, he could happily decrypt that. But still, it's better than write some hard-coded keys. This is the __ application settings file from the Twitter. I will show the site quickly because this is my test account, but I think some tokens are here. There are, as you see, key and the value. And those are application settings. This is the one file. Okay, this is the funny example. We had an application to, I think not all application, but API from the payment processor. Maybe I will tell a few words about the case. So you have some shop in the internet. He is not connected to the bank, but you use some payment provider which allows you, in Poland, to do a fast transfer to expedite your shopping experience, right? So you use this payment processor, you select your bank, it redirects you to your bank, you get back after you did the transfer, and the shopping is complete. So this nice API stored your banking credentials on your mobile device. So in Poland, this is prohibited by law. You cannot, from the bank perspective, you cannot, as a user, as an end user of electronic banking, you cannot share your login and password with anyone else. Okay, so I tried to analyze how these credentials are stored. This is safe login. Similar method was used with the password, user password. Okay, so this is some encryption with the pipe. So here you can see application settings, how it's used. It's checked if contains key, if not, is new key and value is added. If the key is there, just the value is updated. Okay, so get back to example. I was curious what the encryption is used, so I navigated easily to this encrypt code, and I see AES, electronic codebook, which is not good, but okay. And the key. And the key was pretty complicated, long, right? Sometimes it's fun. I think for this perspective of the key was in the API, so it's the same for all applications which will use this API, these assemblies with the API. So it's better to do it with the use of data protection API, which will the key was per device. Okay, second interesting thing with this payment processor. In case you will encounter a hybrid mobile application which use internet, the web browser control, which basically opens a browser window inside your application to view some sites. This is the web browser control. There's also, at the beginning I show you capability related to if the application can use web browser. So if it can, if it lists that capability, look for web browser component. And here is interesting thing connected with this payment processor. Basically, it's opened in this web browser control your banking site, and happily did a web inject. How many of you know what web inject means? Or I will. Okay, what is web inject? This is the malware uses the JavaScript, modifies your site, your banking site, in order to grab your credentials, send it somewhere else, or grab your authentication codes from your phone. So basically this tool, in order to make your experience with the site better, just did web inject on this your banking site and grabbed your credentials. So you can invoke scripts, you can do many things. When you will open, most of the applications open their own sites here, but this was pretty funny because there was a banking site in there. Okay. Yeah, code obfuscation. I've seen it once in a Polish application. What can you tell me when you look at the screen right now? Will it compile? Does it work? So first time I saw it, I was stumbled. What's going on here? Any guesses about the explanation? What happened? This is the source code view from the .pig.
The namespace contains word characters which cannot be reversed or displayed?
Yeah, there are some characters which cannot be displayed. Why? That can be the issue. Yeah, I saw something like that, and I thought this will not compile. It's wrong, right? No, I was looking at a curious method, right? No name. But somehow I managed to move the mouse there. Mouse is there, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's there. And then I encountered UTF-8 invisible characters there. So analysis of that was hard, right? This is the old version of .pig. I'm not sure if a new version allows to see this stuff, but it was pretty funny to see it. I said I pretty much won't tell anything interesting, right? Navigation was difficult, right? Okay. In case of URI handling, application can handle specific protocols or specific file extensions. For example, it can be used to navigate between applications. For example, if you have applications of a shop and application of your bank, right? So it can be used to switch you to your banking application to do the transfer and return to the shop application, for example. Basically, this is the WM app config. You list something like protocol name, Twitter. This fragment, this is constant, I think. And when I don't have here example, but it goes like this. The URI looks like protocol, a question mark, Twitter, colon, and if application will see it, it will go to the Twitter application because it registered this protocol. And then the Twitter, you have to check for URI mapper base. This is the class which allows to implement logic behind protocol handling. And then it extracts some parameters from the link and processes it. For example, you know how Twitter allows you to redirect, right? You will click on the website and it will navigate to your mobile. So the same is on the other platforms. Okay, so we are at summary. What I would like to tell you. I think there are similarities with other platforms. Fewer ready-to-go tools, fewer materials available online how to do it. Some things, for example, source code analysis is way better done. From my experiences with Android, for example, the tool .pig is awesome. The navigation is, you don't have to manually list all the class files, just navigate with keys to get to the definition or the code of the method which is called. What I plan to do in the future. I had, as you saw, this is the first version of the presentation. Connected to that, I prepared some notes, which is basically what I wrote is what I told you today. I will fill the gaps. There are a few things I didn't mention here, for example, handling push notifications. I will try to fill the gaps. I will do reduction. I will complete this material. And I will, I think, publicly release. It depends a little bit from my employer. Next thing I wish to approach is NFC payments when your card is hosted on your phone, which is host card emulation, right? We did some analysis for application, and I believe it's possible, but I think it would be cool to clone your card as a skimmers. So why not from the phone? Like it's emulated there. So this is some software and some data which can be copied, I believe. Second thing I wish to approach is Windows Phone malware. There is not much in the internet about it as well. Maybe I will take a look at what applications are available at Windows Phone store to download something stupid. I'm rich or something like that. And to tell you maybe next year what I found out. So thank you very much.